IELTS Speaking Part 1, cấu trúc bài thi Speaking. Phần 1, giới thiệu và phỏng vấn. Các bạn sẽ có 4 đến 5 phút và giám khảo sẽ giới thiệu và sẽ yêu cầu các bạn giới thiệu mình và xác nhận danh tính. Sau đó giám khảo sẽ hỏi các bạn chủ đề quen thuộc trong cuộc sống, gia đình, bạn bè, việc làm hay sở thích. Tiêu chí chấm gồm có 4 tiêu chí là fluency and coherence, độ trôi chảy và mạch lạc, lexical resource, khả năng sử dụng vốn từ, pronunciation, phát âm, grammatical range and accuracy, chính xác, sự đa dạng trong ngữ pháp. Các chủ đề thường gặp và cách trả lời IELTS Speaking Part 1. Task 1, Introduction and Interview. Hobbies and routine, studies and work and leisure time, hometown, family, friends and neighbor, music, shopping, reading, foods, magazines, internet, TV, weather, and culture. Cách trả lời IELTS Speaking Part 1 một cách xịn sò chính là sử dụng công thức AREA, tức là area. Ví dụ A là answer, đưa ra câu trả lời. R là reason, đưa ra lý do cho một câu trả lời. E là example, đưa ra ví dụ cụ thể. A là alternatives, có thể đưa ra ý kiến phản bác cho câu hỏi. Hướng dẫn để trả lời IELTS Speaking Part 1 chi tiết. Chúng ta có các chủ đề, ví dụ như là đầu tiên là liên quan đến gì các bạn? Dạng like or dislike questions. Example, is there anything you don't like about your hometown? Đối với dạng câu hỏi này, điều quan trọng nhất mà bạn cần chính là sử dụng những từ đơn giản như like, dislike, love, hate, enjoy. Bạn có thể thay bằng những từ sau. với like ta sẽ có I'm fairly a pretty keen on, I'm quite a pretty fond of, I'm quite a big fan of, I'm quite partial to, I'm quite passionate about, I'm quite enthusiastic about, I'm really into, I'm totally mad about, I'm simply adore. Dislike, I'm so keen on, I'm not really that fond of, I'm not much of a fan of, I'm totally detest, I really can't stand, I absolutely loathe. Ta có thể trả lời câu hỏi theo cấu trúc như sau: structure, example và đi với cần answer. Ví dụ structure chúng ta sẽ có đầu tiên là starting phrase, cụm từ thì mở bàn, mở đầu là example. Well, in general, I would say that I'm not so keen on the weather in hometown. Actually, I suppose that I'm not so keen on the weather in hometown. Of course, I think I have to say that I'm not so keen on the weather in hometown. For the most part, I'd probably say that I'm not so keen on the weather in hometown. Well, to be honest, I should say that I'm not so keen on the weather in hometown. Certainly, I would definitely say that I'm not so keen on the weather in hometown. Well, I guess that generally speaking, I would certainly say I'm not so keen on the weather in hometown. Like or dislike phrase. Ví dụ như, of course, I have to say that I'm not so keen on the weather. Introduce a specific time, cụ thể hóa câu trả lời. But in particularly, I really can't stand the summer months. To be more precise, I really can't stand the summer months. To be more specific, I really can't stand the summer months. Specifically, I really can't stand the summer months. To be more exact, I really can't stand the summer months. To be more accurate, I really can't stand the summer months. Reason, đưa ra lý do tại sao bạn like or dislike. And I guess this is probably because the temperatures can get as high as 40 degrees, so it can be quite uncomfortable if you don't have air conditioning in your house. And I guess this is probably because might be because that the temperatures can get as high as 40 degrees, so it can be quite uncomfortable if you don't have air conditioning in your house. This is due to the fact that I suppose the reason has something to do with the fact that the temperatures can get high as 40 degrees, so it can be quite uncomfortable if you don't have air conditioning in your house. Introduce second point. as well as these, to add to this, in addition to this, as well as these, I'm not really that fond of the public transport system, and I guess this is probably because the buses are too old and the seats are really hot, so long journeys are usually pretty pumpy. To add to this, I'm not really that fond of the public transport system, and I guess this is probably because the buses are too old and the seats are really hot, so long journeys are usually pretty pumpy. Basic description questions. Example, tell me about your hometown. Một câu hỏi rất cơ bản đúng không ạ? Giám khảo không đặt ra câu hỏi đó để biết thêm thông tin về quê hương bạn. Thực chất là đang kiểm tra khả năng dùng tiếng Anh của bạn, đặc biệt là khả năng miêu tả của bạn về quê hương của mình và trình bày các từ vựng liên quan đến nó. Các bạn sẽ không đạt được điểm cao nếu bạn tập trung trả lời những ý chính như là câu trả lời quá ngắn và trực tiếp, không dùng linking words, phrases, idioms, redundant language, từ vựng, ngữ pháp, cấu trúc của câu quá đơn giản. Ta có thể trả lời câu với cấu trúc sau: opening phrase. Okay then. Right, okay, all right. I come from Hanoi and I have lived here all my life, although at the moment I'm studying in another city. Well, you know. Well, first of all, actually, the first thing, I come from Hanoi and I have lived here all my life, although at the moment I'm studying in another city. First, the first pointing phrase plus linking phrase plus point one. I suppose if I had to describe Hanoi, the first thing I would say is that it absolutely enormous, maybe even one of the biggest cities in Southeast Asia, I guess. It's so big, in fact, that even the locals have problems finding their way around. The point I'd like to begin with is that I could start out by saying that my initial point would be that I need to start off by pointing out that the main thing you need to know is that I suppose I should begin by highlighting the fact that you may or may not be aware that, in fact, I really need to kick off with the point that the second pointing phrase is pluses, linking phrase plus point two. Another point which which I could add is that it offers example of both classical and contemporary architecture. Actually, some of Vietnam's most renowned landmarks are slap bang in the middle of Hanoi. A second feature which I should mention is that, as well as that, I could say that on top of that, I can also add that. Also, I suppose I should say that, okay, the third point phrase plus thinking words or phrase point three. I should forget to mention that in addition to what I've just said, I can add that. Something else that I need to comment on is that I guess I could also remark on the fact that as of questions, tell me about the different what types of public transport in your city. Opening phrase. Well, actually, of course, you know, sure, obviously, of course, it goes without saying. Okay, certainly. Okay, of course, it goes without saying that there's quite a mixed variety of public transport in my city. Overall, there's a mixed variety of, there's an extensive diversity of, there's a wide range of, there's a diverse mixtures, there's the broad range of course, it goes without saying that there's quite a mixed variety of public transport in my city. Linking phrase plus the first point, but I guess would probably be, however, I suppose could possibly be, though I think would potentially be. Yes, I miss may well be. Still, I suspect that could perhaps be. Though I think the most commonly used would potentially be buses. Detail the thing with is that I assume or so because the point I want to add about is that. And what you have to rely with is that. And the explanation for this could be that and the basis of this is that. And the explanation for this could be that they are so cheap and reliable. The average bus fare in my city is about 1 yuan for a single journey. Linking phrase plus is the second point. Besides, well, less in addition to, another kind of would be, another form of worth mentioning could be. A second variety of would be something like. A subsequent category would be something like, as well as buses. A second variety of public transport would be something like taxis. Details and the main characteristic of that, and the unique aspect of that, and one exceptional aspect with is that, and one exceptional aspect with taxis is that they are certainly the quickest way to get around town. So if you're in a hurry, then taxis are the best bet, the best choice. Ending, and of course there's the user thing like, and obviously you can also find things like. Likewise, as might be expected, there are things likewise, as might be expected, there's things like ferries, motorcycle taxis, and trains, although these are not as widely used as the first two that I mentioned. And actually there are things like W or how often questions. How often do you go to the cinema? Or who do you spend your time with when you listen to music? In the evenings before I sleep, one twice a week, with my parents or my friends. Chúng ta sẽ thấy rằng cấu trúc là câu trả lời rất đặc biệt. Anh ấy sử dụng cấu trúc it depends để tạo ra một tương quan đối lập situation contrast trong câu trả lời. Opening phrase, well, to be honest, well, in truth, actually, to be fair, well, in all fairness, in actual fact, in fact, in all honesty. Well, to be honest, I think I would have to say that it really depends. Depends phrase. I think I would have to say that it really depends. I suppose I would have to maintain that it kind of depends really. I admit that it would depend on the situation. I guess my answer would be determined by different conditions. Well, to be honest, I think I would have to say that it really depends. Linking phrase plus the first point, like for instance, more precisely, like more specifically, like to be more direct, you know, like to be exact. Like for instance, if I have the money, then it's quite possible that I will watch a movie in the cinema 2 or 3 times a month. You know, cinema tickets are pretty pricey in China. To different situation, if then I will most likely, if then it's quite possible, then I will. If then as a consequence as I will probably, if then I guess it's quite like that I will. Like for instance, if I have the money, then it's quite possible that I will watch a movie in the cinema 2 or 3 times a month. You know, cinema tickets are pretty prices in China. Compare linking phrase, whereas in contrast, though at the same time, whereas on the other hand, why oppositely, whereas in contrast, if I'm broke, it's more likely that I watch movie that's home on TV. You probably know that DVDs are quite cheap here, especially compared to the price of a cinema ticket. To another different situation, if then it's more likely that then it's more certainly that I will. If then I will almost always. If then I will most certainly. Whereas in contrast, if I'm broke, it's more likely that I watch movies at home on DVD. You probably know that DVDs are quite cheap here, especially compared to the price of a cinema ticket. Yes or no questions? Ở những câu hỏi yes no question thì Dinh gặp vấn đề tương tự như câu trả W question và how is the education free in the country? Do you think you are an ambitious person? Can you play musical instrument? Thì ta trả lời như sau. Với từ đầu tiên chúng ta có từ opening phrase. Well, in actual fact, if I think about it, I guess that in many ways. Okay, well, in reality, I suppose that to some extent. All right, I guess that on the one hand, well, certainly in some ways. in many ways, well, in actual fact, if I think about it, I guess that in many ways is fairly important, especially when you consider that a healthy diet can help to prevent a variety of diseases and health problems such as diabetes and obesity. Linking is a structure plus yes answer, especially when you consider that, particularly if you think about the point that, especially with regard to the point that, and this is definitely the case with, well, in actual that, if I think about it, I guess that in many ways it's fairly important, especially when you consider that a healthy diet can help prevent a variety of diseases and health problems such as diabetes and obesity. Linking structure plus no answer. But you also have to understand that even says could also say that. At the same time, you could say that, but you also have to understand that eating unhealthy food in moderation is not overly harmful. In fact, unhealthy food is often tastier than healthy food, so I guess it's fine to eat a little junk food now and then. Ending. So all in all, I guess my answer would have to be yes and no. So on the whole, I suppose the answer had to be yes and no. So all things considered, I guess the answer is both yes and no. So in the main, I suppose the answer is probably yes and no. So all in all, I guess my answer would have to be yes and no. Good questions. What would you like to change about your city? Đối với những dạng câu hỏi would, bạn nên dùng có điều kiện loại 2 để trả lời. If possible plus would could might infinitive verb. Well, to be quite honest with you, I don't think I've ever thought about that, but I guess if I had a chance, I would consider to move to another place someday. Well, quite honestly, I don't think I ever thought about that, but I guess actually it isn't something that I've ever considered. But in short, I'm not really sure how to put this, but I suppose generally speaking, what would you like to change about your city? Well, to be quite honest with you, I don't think I've ever thought about that, but I guess if I had a chance, I would choose to upgrade our public transport system. This is because I want to solve traffic congestion in big cities like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, by encouraging more people to take public transportation. That's all.